My name is Savannah, and I am 25 years old. What should have been my happiest birthday turned into the moment my entire world crumbled. My sister Rachel stood in our family living room holding a DNA testing kit like a weapon, her voice dripping with venom as she called me a bastard child in front of everyone we loved. She claimed this gift would finally prove what she had always suspected, that I did not belong in our family. Little did she know the results would expose secrets far more devastating than either of us could have imagined. Before we dive into this twisted tale of family betrayal and sweet revenge, I want to know, where are you watching from today? If stories of family drama and unexpected justice get your heart racing like mine does, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this story will take you on an emotional roller coaster that proves karma always finds its way home. The morning of my 25th birthday started like any other celebration in the Morrison household. Mom had prepared my favorite chocolate chip pancakes, and Dad was brewing his special birthday coffee blend. The dining room was decorated with balloons and streamers in my favorite colors, soft pastels that reminded me of spring mornings. Everything felt perfect until Rachel walked through the front door. My older sister had always carried herself with an air of superiority that made family gatherings uncomfortable, but today felt different. There was something predatory in her smile, something calculated in the way she surveyed the room before setting her gaze on me. She carried a small wrapped box that she clutched possessively against her chest. "Happy birthday, little sister Rachel," said, her voice saccharine sweet, but her eyes cold as winter steel. "I brought you something very special this year." Our parents exchanged glances. Mom's smile faltered slightly, and Dad cleared his throat in that way he did when he sensed trouble brewing. Our younger brother Marcus looked up from his phone, suddenly interested in the family dynamics playing out before him. Rachel placed the box on the table with deliberate ceremony. The wrapping paper was pristine white with a silver bow, elegant but somehow ominous. As I reached for it, she pulled it back slightly, her fingers trailing over the surface like she was savoring a private joke. "Before you open it," Rachel began, her voice taking on that familiar, condescending tone that had plagued our relationship for years, "I think we all need to address the elephant in the room." The atmosphere shifted. Mom's hand found Dad's arm, and Marcus set his phone down completely. I felt my stomach drop, sensing that whatever came next would change everything. "You know, Savannah," Rachel continued, circling the table like a predator stalking prey, "I have always wondered why you look so different from the rest of us. Your eyes, your hair texture, even the way you laugh. It is like you are from a completely different family." "Rachel, that is enough," Dad warned, his voice carrying a sharp edge I rarely heard. But Rachel was just getting started. She had clearly rehearsed this moment, and nothing was going to stop her performance. "I mean, look at us," she gestured dramatically around the room. "Mom, Dad, Marcus, and me. We all share the same features, the same mannerisms. And then there is you standing out like a sore thumb. Have you ever wondered why?" My hands began to tremble. This was supposed to be my birthday celebration, a day filled with love and laughter, not whatever psychological warfare Rachel was orchestrating. "What are you trying to say?" I managed to ask, though part of me already dreaded the answer. Rachel's smile widened, and she finally pushed the box toward me. "Open it." With shaking fingers, I peeled away the wrapping paper to reveal a DNA testing kit. The kind you see advertised on television, promising to unlock family secrets and ancestral mysteries. But in this context, it felt like a weapon designed specifically to destroy me. "A DNA kit," Rachel announced triumphantly, as if she had just presented the solution to world peace. "Because I think it is time we all learned the truth about our dear Savannah." The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face had gone pale, and Dad looked like he wanted to throttle Rachel with his bare hands. Marcus stared between us, clearly trying to process what was happening. "Rachel Elizabeth Morrison." Mom finally spoke, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "How dare you? How dare I?" "What, Mom? Ask questions that we have all been thinking for years." Rachel shot back, her composure never wavering. "I am just saying what everyone else is too polite to mention. Savannah does not look like us, she does not act like us, and frankly, I have my doubts about whether she actually belongs in this family." The words hit me like physical blows. 25 years of shared memories, inside jokes, family traditions, and unconditional love suddenly felt fragile and uncertain. Had everyone really been thinking these things? Had I been living a lie my entire life? "You are way out of line," Dad said, standing up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. "Savannah, is your sister DNA test or no DNA test?" "How could you be so cruel?" Rachel laughed, a cold sound that made my skin crawl. "Cruel, I am being honest. Something this family has not been for a very long time, apparently." The implication hung in the air like toxic smoke. Was she suggesting that our parents had been lying to us, that there were secrets hidden beneath the surface of our seemingly normal family life? Mom stood up abruptly, her chair nearly toppling backward. "I need some air," she whispered, and hurried toward the back door, leaving the rest of us in stunned silence. "Look what you did," Marcus said quietly, his voice filled with disappointment. "You made Mom cry on Savannah's birthday." "I did not make anyone do anything," Rachel replied defensively. "I just gave our sister a gift that might finally answer some long overdue questions." As I sat there holding the DNA kit, feeling like my entire identity was crumbling around me, a strange clarity began to emerge through the chaos. Rachel's behavior was not just cruel, it was calculated. The timing, the public humiliation, the way she had orchestrated every detail of this moment. This was not a spontaneous outburst born from genuine concern or curiosity. This was a planned attack. But why? What could Rachel possibly gain from destroying my sense of belonging in our family? What had I ever done to deserve such calculated cruelty from someone who was supposed to love me unconditionally? As these questions swirled through my mind, I noticed something else. Dad's reaction was not just angry, it was panicked. And Mom's hasty retreat felt less like hurt feelings and more like fear of exposure. There were secrets in this house, just as Rachel had suggested, but I was beginning to suspect that those secrets might not be what any of us expected. Looking at the DNA kit in my hands, I made a decision that would change everything. If Rachel wanted the truth, then that is exactly what she would get. But something told me the results would not unfold the way she had so carefully planned. The rest of my birthday passed in awkward silence and forced smiles. Mom returned from the backyard with red-rimmed eyes. Dad grilled burgers with aggressive precision, and Marcus tried desperately to lighten the mood with jokes that fell flat. Rachel, meanwhile, sat smugly at the patio table, occasionally glancing at the DNA kit beside my plate like she was watching a time bomb tick down to detonation. But something had shifted inside me during those tense afternoon hours. The initial shock and hurt were crystallizing into something sharper, more focused. I began to really observe my family. Not through the lens of unconditional love I had always worn, but with the analytical eye of someone gathering intelligence. Dad's nervous energy was not just about Rachel's cruelty. He kept checking his phone obsessively, and I caught him whispering urgently to Mom when they thought no one was listening. Mom's distress seemed disproportionate to the situation. Yes, Rachel had been awful, but Mom's reaction felt like someone whose carefully constructed world was threatening to collapse. And Rachel, her smugness was too perfect, too rehearsed. She was not just being mean, she was executing a plan. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat in my childhood bedroom staring at the DNA kit packaging. The customer reviews on my laptop screen painted a picture of people discovering unexpected ethnicities, finding long-lost relatives, and yes, uncovering family secrets. But as I read through testimonial after testimonial, a pattern began to emerge. The most shocking discoveries were not about the test takers themselves. They were about their parents. Hidden affairs, switched babies, adoption secrets kept for decades. Children discovering they had different fathers than they believed. Families torn apart by revelations that parents had worked so hard to conceal. A cold realization washed over me. Rachel was not trying to prove I was illegitimate. She was trying to expose someone else's secret, and she was using me as the weapon to do it. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove across town to visit my grandmother. Nana Morrison lived in a modest retirement community, and she had always been the keeper of our family stories. If there were secrets to uncover, she would know. I found her tending to her small garden, her silver hair gleaming in the morning sunlight. At 83, she was still sharp as a tack and had little patience for family drama. "Well, this is a surprise," she said, looking up from her tomato plants. "Should you not be at work, young lady? I needed to ask you something, Nana. About our family." Her expression grew cautious. What kind of questions? I told her about the DNA kit, about Rachel's accusations, about the strange tension between my parents. I watched her face carefully as I spoke, looking for any telltale signs that she knew more than she was letting on. When I finished, Nana was quiet for a long moment. She removed her gardening gloves slowly, buying herself time to think. "Your sister has always been jealous of you," she finally said. "Even when you were babies, she resented the attention you received. But is there any truth to what she is saying about me not belonging?" Nana's laugh was bitter. "Oh, honey, you belong in this family more than anyone else. But Rachel has some very unpleasant surprises coming her way, if she really wants to go digging into family DNA." The way she said it made my blood run cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean that little girl has been throwing stones from inside a very fragile glass house for her entire life. And if she wants to start a war over bloodlines and legitimacy, she might find herself on the losing side." Nana would not elaborate, no matter how much I pressed. But as I drove home, pieces of a larger puzzle began clicking into place. Rachel's physical features that I had never questioned, her different mannerisms, the way certain relatives always seemed slightly uncomfortable around her. That evening I made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. I was going to take the DNA test, but not for the reasons Rachel intended. I was going to use it as a strategic weapon to uncover whatever secrets were poisoning our family dynamics. But I was not going to do it alone. I started with Marcus. At 22, he was old enough to understand complex family dynamics, but young enough to still believe in fairness and justice. I found him in his apartment near the university, surrounded by textbooks and energy drink cans. "I need your help with something," I told him, settling onto his couch. "And it involves taking down Rachel." His eyes lit up with interest. Marcus had always been the peacekeeper in our family, but even he had grown tired of Rachel's constant need to be the center of attention. I explained my theory about the DNA test being a weapon designed to expose someone else's secrets, and how I suspected Rachel might be the one with something to hide. "You think she is not Dad's kid?" Marcus asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I think there are secrets in our family that go deeper than anyone wants to admit. And I think Rachel knows exactly what she is doing by starting this DNA investigation. She is just betting that she will not be the one who gets burned." Marcus was quiet for several minutes, processing everything I had told him. Finally, he looked up with a grin that reminded me exactly why I loved my little brother. "What do you need me to do?" We spent the next 2 hours crafting a plan. Marcus would casually suggest that the whole family take DNA tests together, making it seem like a fun bonding activity rather than the investigation it really was. We would present it as a way to explore our ancestry, and maybe find distant relatives. "Rachel cannot refuse without looking suspicious," Marcus pointed out. "And if she is hiding something, this will force her hand." The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. Rachel had opened this door with her birthday ambush. Now we were going to walk through it together and see what we found on the other side. As I drove home that night, I felt something I had not experienced since Rachel's attack. A sense of control. For 25 years, I had been reactive in our relationship, always defending myself against her subtle and not-so-subtle attacks. But now I was taking the offensive. Rachel wanted to play games with family DNA and belonging, fine. But she was about to learn that some games have consequences far beyond what the players originally intended. The next phase of this family drama was about to begin, and this time I would be the one setting the rules. Marcus proved to be a master strategist. 3 days after our planning session, he showed up at the family dinner table with the enthusiasm of someone who had just discovered the most exciting hobby in the world. "You guys, I have been researching our family history, and it is absolutely fascinating," he announced, pulling out his laptop with theatrical flair. "Did you know we might have ancestors who fought in the Civil War, and there could be relatives we have never met living all over the country. Mom looked up from her meatloaf with genuine interest. Really? Which side of the family? That is the thing, I cannot tell from the records I found. But I discovered this amazing family tree website that connects with DNA testing companies. We could map our entire genetic history, and maybe even find cousins we never knew existed. Dad raised an eyebrow. Sounds expensive. Actually, I already looked into it. There is a sale this month, and if we all test together, we get a family discount. Plus, Savannah already has one kit, so we are halfway there. The casual way Marcus mentioned my DNA kit was brilliant. He made it sound like a convenient starting point rather than the weapon Rachel had intended it to be. Rachel, who had been unusually quiet since her birthday ambush, finally spoke up. I do not see why we all need to waste money on something like that. Savannah has her kit, if she wants to use it. But think about how cool it would be to compare our results. Marcus pressed his excitement, seemingly genuine. We could see which traits we inherited from which ancestors, maybe solve some family mysteries. Come on, Rachel, do not you want to know if we have any famous relatives? I watched Rachel's face carefully as Marcus painted his picture of family genetic exploration. She was trapped, and she knew it. Refusing would make her look suspicious, especially after she had been the one to bring DNA testing into our family dynamic in the first place. I suppose it could be interesting, she said carefully, her voice lacking its usual confidence. Great, Marcus beamed. I will order the kits tonight. This is going to be so much fun. As we finished dinner, I caught Dad watching Rachel with an expression I could not quite read. It was calculating, almost protective, which struck me as odd given how angry he had been about her birthday stunt. Later that evening, I was washing dishes when Mom approached me hesitantly. Savannah, honey, about what Rachel said on your birthday. It is okay, Mom. I know she was just being cruel. Mom's hands twisted the dish towel nervously. But what if the DNA test shows something unexpected? Will you still feel like you belong in this family? The question struck me as strange. Why would Mom be worried about my sense of belonging, unless she had reason to believe the test might reveal something shocking? Mom, do you think the test will show something unexpected? Her pause was too long, too loaded with unspoken anxiety. I just want you to know that no matter what any test says, you are my daughter. Biology does not change love. That night I lay awake thinking about Mom's words. Her reassurance felt less like comfort and more like preparation for bad news. But the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that Rachel was the one who should be worried about DNA revelations. The next day, I decided to do some investigative work of my own. I started by calling my Aunt Linda, Dad's sister, who lived 3 hours away but visited regularly when we were children. Aunt Linda, it is Savannah. I was hoping you could help me with something. Of course, sweetheart. What do you need? I am putting together a family photo album as a surprise, and I realized I do not have many pictures from when Rachel and I were babies. Do you have any you could share? There was a brief silence on the other end. Well, I have some pictures of you as a baby, but I do not think I have many of Rachel from that time period. Really, why not another pause? Your parents were going through a difficult time when Rachel was born. Your mom was not feeling well for quite a while, and they were not as social as usual. I did not see much of Rachel until she was almost 2 years old. This was news to me. I had always been told that Rachel and I had similar early childhoods, but Aunt Linda was describing something completely different. What kind of difficult time? Oh, honey, I probably should not be discussing this without talking to your parents first. Why do not you ask them about family photos? I am sure they have plenty. But her evasiveness only fueled my curiosity. After hanging up, I called my maternal grandmother, hoping for more information. Grandma Rose, I was wondering if you could help me with some family history questions. Of course, dear. What would you like to know? I asked the same questions about baby photos and family history, but this time I got a completely different response. Oh, I have boxes of pictures of you as a baby, Savannah. Your mother was so proud she documented everything. But you know I do not think I have many pictures of Rachel as an infant. Your mother was so busy with other things during that time. Other things, well, she was working a lot. had that demanding job at the law firm. I always thought it was strange that she went back to work so quickly after Rachel was born, but people make different choices, I suppose. This was getting stranger by the minute. Mom had always told us she was a stay-at-home mother when we were young. But according to Grandma Rose, she was working at a law firm when Rachel was a baby. I spent the rest of the day making carefully crafted phone calls to various family members, always framing my questions as innocent curiosity about family history. The picture that emerged was deeply troubling. Multiple relatives remembered Mom working during Rachel's early years, despite her claims of being home with us. Several mentioned that Dad seemed unusually stressed during that time period. Most telling of all, nobody seemed to have clear memories of Rachel as a newborn, despite our family's tradition of celebrating every milestone. That evening, I met Marcus at his favorite coffee shop to share what I had discovered. "This is getting really weird," he said after I finished recounting my conversations. "It sounds like there is a whole different version of family history that we never heard." "I think Rachel knows something," I told him. "Her birthday attack was not random cruelty. She was trying to deflect attention from her own secrets by attacking mine." Marcus stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "So what do we do now?" "We wait for the DNA kits to arrive and we make sure everyone uses them. But in the meantime, I think we need to be ready for whatever truth comes out." "Are you scared?" Marcus asked. I considered the question seriously. A week ago, I would have been terrified of anything that might threaten my place in our family. But now, armed with growing evidence that Rachel was not the golden child she pretended to be, I felt more determined than afraid. "I am ready for the truth," I said finally. "Whatever it is." As we parted ways that evening, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff about to jump into unknown territory. Rachel had started this war with her DNA kit ambush, confident that she held all the weapons. But she was about to learn that sometimes when you try to destroy someone else, you end up revealing your own vulnerabilities. The kits would arrive within the week, and then we would see who really belonged in the Morrison family. But something told me the results would surprise everyone, most of all, Rachel herself. The DNA kits arrived on a Tuesday, delivered in a plain cardboard box that somehow felt like it contained explosives. Marcus had ordered 5 tests, one for each family member, and he presented them at dinner with the enthusiasm of someone unveiling a treasure chest. "Okay, everyone," he announced, dumping the contents onto the dining room table. "Our genetic adventure begins now." Dad picked up one of the kits, examining it with the same caution he might show a suspicious package. "How exactly does this work?" "Simple saliva test," Marcus explained. "We all provide samples, mail them back, and in 6 to 8 weeks we get detailed reports about our ancestry, genetic traits, and potential relatives." Rachel had been unusually quiet since the kits arrived, but now she forced a smile. "Well, this should be interesting. I think we should all do our tests together," I suggested, my voice carefully casual. Make it a family bonding experience." "Great idea," Mom said, though her enthusiasm seemed forced. Like a science experiment. We decided to complete the tests that evening after dinner. One by one we followed the instructions, providing saliva samples, and sealing them in the prepaid return containers. Rachel went last, and I noticed her hands trembling slightly as she sealed her kit. "Now what?" Dad asked. "Now we wait," Marcus said. "But I set up online accounts for all of us so we can access the results as soon as they are ready. I also opted everyone into the relative matching service, so if we have unknown cousins out there, we might hear from them." Rachel's face went pale. "Relative matching, yeah, it is this cool feature where people with shared DNA can contact each other through the platform. We might discover long-lost family members." As we cleaned up the testing materials, I caught Rachel staring at her sealed kit with an expression of pure dread. Whatever secrets she was hiding, the reality of submitting her DNA for analysis was clearly terrifying her. 3 weeks later, the first bombshell arrived, not through the DNA company's website, but through a phone call to our house. I was visiting Mom when the phone rang. She answered cheerfully, expecting a call from her book club, but her expression quickly changed to confusion, then shock. "I am sorry, could you repeat that?" Mom said into the receiver. "You are looking for who I watched," as Mom's face cycled through a range of emotions: bewilderment, recognition, fear, and finally resignation. "I think there has been some mistake," Mom said carefully. "But let me get some information from you." After hanging up, Mom sat heavily in her kitchen chair, staring at the phone like it might explode. "Who was that?" I asked. "Someone from the DNA matching service. She says she might be Rachel's biological grandmother." The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire that was about to consume everything we thought we knew about our family. Rachel's biological grandmother. What does that mean? Mom's hand shook as she reached for her coffee cup. "It means, sweetheart, that your sister might not be. That is, she might have been adopted," I finished gently. Mom nodded, tears beginning to stream down her face. "We never told any of you. We thought it would be easier that she would never need to know. But if people are reaching out through these DNA websites..." The truth came pouring out then, 23 years of carefully guarded secrets spilling across Mom's kitchen table, like water from a broken dam. Rachel had been adopted when she was 6 months old. Her birth mother had been a teenager who could not care for her, and her birth father was unknown. Mom and Dad had struggled with infertility for years, before being matched with Rachel through a private adoption agency. "We loved her from the moment we held her," Mom sobbed. "She was our daughter in every way that mattered. When I got pregnant with you 2 years later, we thought about telling her then, but she was so young and she seemed so happy. We kept putting it off, and then years went by and it seemed cruel to disrupt her sense of belonging. Does Rachel know? We do not think so. There was never a good time to tell her, and honestly, we were terrified of how she would react. You know how she values being the oldest, being first in everything. Learning that she was not born into this family might have devastated her. But as I processed this information, other pieces fell into place. Rachel's lifelong insecurity about her place in the family, her desperate need to be perfect to prove her worth, her recent attack on my legitimacy. Was it projection? Had she always suspected something was different about her own origins? "Mom, I think Rachel already knows." "What do you mean?" I told Mom about my theory that Rachel's birthday attack had been a strategic deflection designed to focus attention on my DNA rather than her own. The timing, the public nature of the humiliation, her insistence that I take the test while carefully avoiding taking one herself. She was trying to make me the family outsider before anyone could discover that she was the one who did not belong, I concluded. Mom looked stricken. "You think she has known all along?" "I think she suspected, and she was trying to control the narrative. But now that we all submitted DNA samples..." As if summoned by our conversation, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus' emergency family meeting. "Rachel got her DNA results early, and she is freaking out. Come home now." Mom and I rushed to the house to find Dad pacing the living room while Rachel sat on the couch staring at her laptop screen with the expression of someone watching her world burn down around her. "The DNA results confirm it," Dad said without preamble. "Rachel is not biologically related to any of us." Rachel looked up, her face streaked with tears, but her eyes blazing with fury. "You all knew, did you not? You have all been lying to me my entire life." "Rachel, honey, we were trying to protect you," Mom began. "Protect me by letting me live a lie, by making me think I belonged somewhere I never actually did." The irony was overwhelming. Rachel, who had spent my birthday trying to prove I was illegitimate, had discovered that she was the one without biological ties to our family. But instead of the satisfaction I expected to feel, I found myself genuinely sorry for her. Beneath her cruelty and manipulation, Rachel was just a scared woman who had always felt different, and had finally learned why. The room fell silent except for Rachel's quiet sobs. 23 years of family dynamics suddenly made perfect sense, but none of us knew how to move forward from this revelation. The days following Rachel's DNA revelation felt like living in the aftermath of an earthquake. Our family dynamics, already strained by weeks of tension, completely shattered under the weight of decades-old secrets finally coming to light. Rachel locked herself in her apartment and refused to take calls from any of us. Mom alternated between crying and frantically researching support groups for adoptive families dealing with late disclosure. Dad threw himself into work with the desperate energy of someone trying to outrun his own guilt. Marcus and I found ourselves thrust into the role of family mediators, trying to navigate emotional landmines none of us were equipped to handle. The DNA matching platform became a constant source of new revelations. Rachel's biological family members began reaching out through the system, each contact adding another layer of complexity to our already chaotic situation. Her birth grandmother Margaret was particularly persistent, leaving voicemails filled with 23 years of missed memories and desperate hope for connection. "She sounds lonely," Marcus observed after listening to one of Margaret's messages. "Like she has been waiting her whole life to find Rachel." But Rachel was not ready to hear from anyone. When I finally convinced her to meet me for coffee, she looked like she had not slept in days. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, her confident demeanor completely shattered. "I do not know who I am anymore," she confessed, staring into her untouched latte. "Everything I thought I knew about myself, about our family, about where I came from, it was all a lie. Rachel, you are still the same person you were before you knew. Being adopted does not change who you are." She laughed bitterly. "Does it not? Because apparently I spent 23 years attacking the wrong person. All those times I made you feel like you did not belong when I was the one who was living a lie." The admission hung between us, raw and painful. For the first time in our relationship, Rachel was being completely honest about the cruelty she had inflicted on me over the years. "Why did you really give me that DNA kit?" I asked quietly. Rachel's composure cracked completely then. "Because I was scared," she whispered. "I had been having dreams, strange memories that did not make sense. And there were pictures I found in Mom's old photo albums that looked wrong somehow. I started researching our family tree online, and could not find any record of my birth in the local hospital records. So you suspected you were adopted." I was terrified I was adopted. And I thought, if I could prove that you were the one who did not belong, then nobody would look too closely at my own origins. I was trying to deflect attention from myself. The calculation behind her birthday attack was even more heartless than I had imagined. Rachel had been willing to destroy my sense of belonging to protect her own secret, even though her suspicions about herself proved to be correct. "There is more," she continued, her voice barely audible. "After I got my results, I contacted Margaret, my biological grandmother. She told me things about my birth mother, about why I was given up for adoption." "What kind of things?" "My birth mother was 15 when she had me. She was a good student, had college plans, came from a strict religious family. Getting pregnant ruined everything for her. Margaret said she never got over having to give me up, that she talked about me until the day she died in a car accident when I was 12. The weight of that revelation settled over both of us. Rachel's birth mother had died thinking about the daughter she had given up, while Rachel had lived her entire life not knowing that someone out there had loved her and mourned her absence. "Margaret wants to meet me," Rachel said. "She has pictures of my birth mother, stories about what she was like. She says I look exactly like her. Are you going to see her? I do not know. Part of me wants to learn everything about where I came from, but another part of me feels like I am betraying the only family I have ever known." Despite everything Rachel had put me through, my heart ached for her. She was facing an impossible choice between honoring the past she had never known and preserving the relationships she had always taken for granted. "Rachel, Mom and Dad love you. Finding out about your biological family does not have to mean losing your adoptive family. But how can I face them? How can I sit at that dinner table, knowing they lied to me for 23 years? Every birthday, every family photo, every time they told me how proud they were of their daughter, it was all based on a lie." I understood her anger, but I also saw the bigger picture in a way she could not yet. "They lied because they were scared of losing you. Yes, they should have told you the truth years ago, but their love for you was never fake. You are their daughter, Rachel. Biology does not change that." Over the following weeks, our family attempted several reconciliation dinners that ended in tears and accusations. Mom would apologize tearfully while Dad tried to explain their reasoning. Rachel would listen stonily, before unleashing years of accumulated resentment about feeling different, feeling like she had to prove her worth, feeling like an imposter in her own family. Marcus and I became reluctant witnesses to the destruction of everything we had believed about our family unity. But we also began to see how the secret had poisoned our relationships long before any of us understood why. Rachel's aggression toward me suddenly made sense. She had been projecting her own insecurities about belonging onto the one person who actually shared our parents' DNA. Her perfectionism, her need to be the best at everything, her desperate attempts to prove her worth. All of it stemmed from a subconscious awareness that something about her place in the family was not quite right. The most heartbreaking moment came when Rachel finally decided to call Margaret. I was there when she made the call, watching her hands shake as she dialed the number. "Hello, Margaret, this is Rachel Morrison. I think you have been trying to reach me." The conversation lasted 2 hours. Rachel cried, laughed, and asked hundreds of questions about the mother she would never meet. When she hung up, she looked both devastated and relieved. "She wants me to come visit her in Colorado," Rachel said. "She has a whole room full of things that belong to my birth mother. Pictures, baby clothes she bought before the adoption letters she wrote to me that she never sent. Are you going to go? I think I have to. I need to understand where I came from before I can figure out where I belong." 3 months later, Rachel returned from Colorado a completely changed person. Her trip to meet Margaret had given her the missing pieces of her identity puzzle, but more importantly, it had taught her the difference between biological connection and chosen family. She called a family meeting the Sunday after her return, gathering all of us in the same living room where her DNA revelation had first shattered our world. But this time, she was the one setting the agenda. "I owe all of you an apology," Rachel began, her voice steady but emotional. "Especially Savannah. I spent years making you feel like you did not belong in this family because I was terrified that I was the one who did not belong. That was cruel, unfair, and completely wrong." The room was silent except for Mom's quiet sniffling. Dad reached over to squeeze her hand, and Marcus leaned forward attentively. "Meeting Margaret and learning about my birth mother taught me something important," Rachel continued. "Family is not just about sharing DNA. It is about the people who choose to love you, who show up for you, who make you feel like you belong somewhere." She turned to face our parents directly. "Mom and Dad, I wish you had told me the truth earlier. But I understand why you were scared. You gave me a home, a family, and 23 years of unconditional love. That matters more than any genetic connection." Mom burst into tears, and Dad's eyes filled with moisture he was trying hard to contain. "And Savannah," Rachel said, turning to me with tears streaming down her face, "I am so sorry for the way I treated you. You never deserved my insecurity and cruelty. You are not just my sister by chance. You are my sister by choice, and I want to do better by that relationship." The apology I had waited years to hear finally came, but it felt different than I had imagined. Rather than vindication or triumph, I felt profound sadness for all the time we had lost to jealousy and secrets. "I forgive you, Rachel. But I need you to understand how much your words hurt me over the years. This family is big enough for both of us to belong. I know that now, and I want to prove it to you." Over the following months, Rachel did exactly that. She made genuine efforts to repair our relationship, asking about my life, supporting my goals, and including me in her plans. The sister who had once made me feel like an intruder became my strongest advocate. But perhaps the most unexpected development was Rachel's relationship with her biological family. Margaret became a treasured grandmother figure, sharing stories and photos that helped Rachel understand her genetic heritage. However, Rachel made it clear that the Morrisons would always be her primary family. "I can honor both families," she explained to me during one of our new weekly coffee dates. "Margaret gives me answers about where my traits come from, but you guys gave me everything that matters: love, values, memories, and belonging." The DNA testing experience also brought unexpected gifts. Through the relative matching service, we connected with distant cousins, learned about fascinating ancestry we never knew we had, and even solved some long-standing family mysteries about great-grandparents who had immigrated from Ireland. Most importantly, the crisis forced our family to communicate more honestly than we ever had before. Mom and Dad went to counseling to work through their guilt about the adoption secret. Rachel started therapy to process her identity issues and learn healthier ways to express insecurity. Marcus and I developed a deeper appreciation for the family bonds we had always taken for granted. 6 months after the DNA revelation, we held a special dinner to celebrate what we started calling our chosen family anniversary. It marked the day we all decided that family is not about perfect genetics or flawless honesty. It is about choosing to love each other, despite our mistakes and secrets. Rachel stood up to make a toast that evening, raising her glass with the confidence of someone who finally knew where she belonged. To the Morrison family, she said, not because we share the same DNA, but because we choose to share the same love. To second chances, honest conversations, and the courage to forgive each other when we mess up. As we clinked glasses around that familiar dining room table, I realized that Rachel's cruel birthday gift had ultimately given our family something precious. The truth about what really matters in relationships. My DNA test results incidentally confirmed what I had always known. I was 100% Morrison, with genetic ties reaching back generations. But by the time those results arrived, the question of biological belonging had become irrelevant. The real test of family is not what shows up in a laboratory analysis. It is what shows up when people have the courage to love each other through difficulty, to forgive each other's mistakes, and to choose connection over perfection. Rachel's attempt to destroy my place in the family had backfired spectacularly, but it had also created something better than what we started with. A family built on truth, forgiveness, and conscious choice rather than obligation and secrets. Today, Rachel and I have the close relationship I always wished for but never thought possible. She met someone wonderful last year, a man who loves her for exactly who she is, adoption story and all. Mom and Dad have learned to communicate more openly about difficult topics. Marcus finished college, and often credits our family crisis with teaching him the importance of honest relationships. As for me, I learned that belonging is not something you prove with a DNA test. It is something you build with love, patience, and the willingness to fight for the relationships that matter. So here is my question for you. Have you ever discovered something that completely changed how you understood your family? Whether it was through DNA testing, old letters, or just finally hearing long-kept secrets. How did those revelations change your relationships? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story of family karma and unexpected justice resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama with satisfying endings. And do not forget to share this with someone who needs to hear that family is about so much more than genetics. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of the most challenging and ultimately rewarding experiences of my life. Remember, the truth might hurt at first, but it is always worth fighting for. Sometimes the best families are not the ones you are born into, but the ones you choose to build with love, forgiveness, and courage. Until next time, keep choosing love over fear, and never underestimate the power of family karma to set things right.